This video is about the famous people and celebrities who passed away in 1973 in the United States. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Isabel Randolph. She was born in December 1889 and she died in January 1973. Her age was 83 at the time of her death and she died following a lengthy illness. Isabel Randolph was an American character actress in radio and film from the 1940s through the 1960s and in television from the early 1950s to the middle 1960s. Randolph acted in regional theater all over the American Midwest from the pre-First World War era up to the start of her radio career in the mid-1930s. She became leading lady at the Princess Theater in Des Moines, Iowa in 1917 and was still acting there in 1918 and in 1931. At the Loyola Community Theater in Chicago, Isabel Randolph gained nationwide popularity on the radio show Fibber McGee and Molly on the air from 1935 to 1959, where she began in various snooty roles, eventually becoming a long-running series character, the pompous Mrs. Abigail Uppington, a snooty society matron whom Fibber addressed as Uppy, and whose pretensions Fibber delighted in deflating. Even while young, Randolph specialized in middle-aged grand dame roles on stage and radio, continuing these roles when she entered films in 1940. She recreated her character of Mrs. Uppington in RKO's Look Who's Laughing in 1941 and Here We Go Again in 1942, both spin-offs of the Fibber McGee and Molly radio series. Lyndon B. Johnson. He was born in August 1908 and he died in January 1973. His age was 64 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. Lyndon B. Johnson was the 36th President of the United States, serving from 1963 to 1969. He became president after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, under whom he had served as the 37th Vice President. From 1961 to 1963, a Southern Democrat, Johnson previously represented Texas in Congress for over 23 years, first as a United States representative from 1937 to 1949, and then as a United States Senator from 1949 to 1961. Born in Stonewall, Texas, Johnson worked as a teacher and a congressional aide before winning election to the United States House of Representatives in 1937. In 1948, he was controversially declared the winner of the Democratic primary for the United States Senate election in Texas before winning the general election. He became Senate Majority Whip in 1951, Senate Democratic Leader in 1953, and Majority Leader in 1954. Senator Kennedy bested Johnson and his other rivals for the 1960 Democratic presidential nomination before surprising many by offering to make Johnson his vice president running mate. The Kennedy-Johnson ticket won the general election. Johnson's Great Society was aimed at expanding civil rights, public broadcasting, access to health care, aid to education, and the arts. J. Carroll Naish. He was born in January 1896 and he died in January 1973. His age was 77 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was emphysema. J. Carroll Naish was an American actor. He appeared in over 200 films during the golden age of Hollywood. He became a dialect specialist and was called upon to play character roles of many nationalities, including Southern European, especially Italian, Eastern European, Latin American, American Indians, Middle Eastern, South Asian, East Asian, and Pacific Islander, even Black, which earned him the moniker Hollywood's one-man UN. His own heritage was Irish, but he rarely played Irish characters, explaining, "When the part of an Irishman comes along, nobody ever thinks of me." Naish received 2 Oscar nominations for his supporting roles in the films Sahara in 1943 and A Medal of Benny in 1945, the latter of which also earned him a Golden Globe. He was honored with a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 1960, although he played an uncredited bit role in the silent film What Price Glory in 1926. Nage said his screen career didn't actually begin until 1930, when stage actors were being recruited for the new talking pictures. He became a prolific supporting actor, appearing in more than 200 films. Edward G. Robinson. He was born in December 1893 and he died in January 1973. His age was 79 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was bladder cancer. Edward G. Robinson was an American actor of stage and screen who was popular during Hollywood's golden age. He appeared in 30 Broadway plays and more than 100 films during a 50-year career, and is best remembered for his tough guy roles as gangsters in such films as Little Caesar and Key Largo. During his career, Robinson received the Cannes Film Festival Award for Best Actor for his performance in House of Strangers. During the 1930s and 1940s, Robinson was outspoken public critic of fascism and Nazism, which were growing in strength in Europe in the years which led up to the Second World War. His activism included contributing over $250,000 to more than 850 organizations that were involved in war relief, along with contributions to cultural, educational, and religious groups. During the 1950s, he was called to testify in front of the House Un-American Activities Committee during the Red Scare, but he was cleared of any deliberate communist involvement, which he claimed that he was duped by several people whom he named, including screenwriter Dalton Trumbo. According to the official congressional record, communist infiltration of Hollywood motion picture industry. John Banner. He was born in January 1910 and he died in January 1973. His age was 63 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was abdominal hemorrhage. John Banner was an Austrian-born American actor, best known for his roles as Sergeant Schultz in the situation comedy Hogan's Heroes from 1965 to 1971. Schultz constantly encountering evidence that inmates of his stalag were actively conducting anti-German espionage and sabotage activities, frequently feigned ignorance with the catchphrase, "I see nothing, I hear nothing, I know nothing." Banner appearing on Broadway 3 times in a musical revue called From Vienna, which ran for 2 months in 1939, and in 2 comic plays, Pastoral, in which he had a leading role, but which had a very brief run in November 1939, and The Big Two, which ran briefly in January 1947. Early on, before he became fluent in English, Banner had to learn his lines phonetically. Banner appeared in more than 40 feature films. His first credited role was a German captain in Once Upon a Honeymoon in 1942, starring Cary Grant and Ginger Rogers. He also played a Gestapo agent in 20th Century Fox's Chatniks, The Fighting Gorillas in 1943. His typecasting did not please him, but these were the only roles he was offered. Banner later learned that his family members who remained in Vienna had all perished in Nazi concentration camps. Kidori. He was born in December 1886 and he died in January 1973. His age was 86 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was heart attack. Kidori was an American jazz composer, trombonist, and band leader. One of the early users of the glissando technique, he helped establish it as a central element of New Orleans jazz. He was born near La Place, Louisiana, and moved to New Orleans on his 21st birthday, to Los Angeles in 1910, and to Chicago in 1925. The Ori Band later was an important force in reviving interest in New Orleans jazz, making radio broadcasts on the Orson Welles Almanac program in 1944. Among other shows, in 1944 and 1945, the group made a series of recordings for Crescent label, which was founded by Nasuhi Ertegun for the express purpose of recording Ori's band. In 2021, the 1811 Kid Ori Historic House opened on the site of Woodland Plantation in Laplace, Louisiana, which is in the National Register of Historic Places of the United States. The museum is dedicated both to the 1811 German coast uprising of enslaved people and to Ori. Ori retired from music in 1966 and spent his last years in Hawaii, where he died from a heart attack. Elizabeth Baker. She was born in December 1885 and she died in January 1973. Her age was 87 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was an American economist and academic who specialized in scientific management and relationship between employment and technological change, especially the role of women. Baker remained at Barnard for the rest of her career, serving as chair of the Department of Economics from 1940 until her retirement in 1952. Baker was born of New England parents in Kansas on 10th December 1885 and served as Dean of Women and instructor in economics at Lewiston State Normal School from 1915 to 1917, and then Dean of Women at Ellensburg State Normal School from 1917 to 1918, while earning her Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of California in 1918. She received her Master's in Economics from Columbia University in 1919 and her PhD in Economics from the same university in 1925 while teaching at Barnard College. During the Second World War, she served as a hearing officer of National War Labor Board. She joined the Taylor Society, a group dedicated to the ideas of scientific management as espoused by Frederick Winslow Taylor in the late 1920s, and Baker was director of its New York section in 1944 to 1946. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.